Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have several updates here today regarding conference realignment, specifically with Florida State, possibly Clemson, maybe later next month, Florida State. Right now, they've got a spot in the Big Ten. It's been reported if they want to take it, maybe getting out of the conference, announcing in mid-August. Remember, we had late announcements last year with Stanford, California, and SMU going to the ACC. It was like right before week 0. It might have been like during week 0 almost. And now we've got this erroneous report. Is the Big 12 a viable option for FSU? Yahoo indicates preliminary discussions between both sides. And so this is obviously a last ditch for FSU. Very unlikely to happen. It's been reported. We're going to go through the entire thing. But apparently FSU, if worst case scenario, I'm not even sure what would happen. The ACC would have to somehow implode and FSU maybe doesn't have a spot, but they're trying to cover all their bases. Right now, I think FSU is guaranteed to the Big Ten or the SEC, and it seems like there's more talks around the Big Ten. At least that's where the rumors are right now. Again, possibly mid-August, getting out by where it is announced. Obviously, they would not join that conference until next year or maybe the year after, depending on how the schedules would work. But we've changed schedules so many different times within the Big Ten. I think they've changed it like 2 times within the last 2 years because of all the realignment. So looking at some of this stuff, oh yeah, this is very annoying. And I did want to warn people about this. Looks like Hawaii will have the first practice jersey sponsorship patch deal. And this is going to leak into the actual jerseys. You just know it. I mean, look at how horrible it is right now with MLB and what they're doing. MLB, literally, the teams have patches or like they'll paint onto their infields a logo of the sponsorship. That's how bad it's gotten. And money rules everything. These people, they don't care about the presentation or anything. They should make it illegal right now to put patches or sponsorships on your jerseys. It should be illegal to, utilize your conference's name within a sponsorship. You've got the Big 12 selling their literal name maybe and becoming, the AutoZone 12 or whatever it's going to be. It's total crap. It tarnishes the sport. This has got to stop. They're just obsessed with money. They can't help themselves. And I know people say, oh, it's just a practice jersey. Look at MLB. Look at the NBA. Or I don't know if the NBA does it, but I mean, it's ridiculous. How do you have a patch? You're a professional sports league, multi-billion-dollar league, and you're selling yourself out with these patches, and it makes the jersey look so ugly. If this happens with college football, it would be very sad, especially some of these good jerseys, historic jerseys that we've seen so long. So I did want to warn people on that. You can see I heard the Big Ten won't accept FSU because they aren't AAU certified. So here it is, AAU again. This always comes up. Big Ten presidents have no concerns or issues about FSU research or academics. FSU will be an AAU member sooner rather than later, and the Big Ten already knows this. The academic stuff can be put to rest. So that confirms that the AAU crap is not going to be a problem when it comes to FSU possibly joining the Big Ten. It has been reported that they were, they can join at any point, and I would expect FSU, with all these different reports coming out about the Big 12, FSU should be either in the Big Ten or the SEC before week 1 in terms of it getting announced, and then they join the conference actually next year. But I'm saying it's going to get announced possibly between now and like August 23rd or whenever week 0 is. I'm not exactly sure the specific date. What is your take on the FSU Clemson rumors? Just smoke to distract from their final destination. I think that's the Big 12 rumors. A bit over the top of that is typical with social media. The Big 12 option is a last resort. You don't choose to go to the Big 12. You end up there, as one person wisely stated in the comments. Well, no, I totally agree. I don't see any way they would go to the Big 12. The Big Ten and the SEC would have to straight up deny FSU. And then if you're FSU, why wouldn't you just stay in the ACC? Now, I would have to relook at some of the TV deals, but I heard that the ACC, the team's got around $44 million. Would it really make sense going to the Big 12 unless there was some? Because I will be honest, that is a horrible TV deal, the ACC, because you're locked in through 2036. The Big 12 is a little bit different, so maybe if you're talking about into the future, you could renegotiate a new TV deal. The Big 12 would obviously get a lot more money if they somehow got Clemson and FSU. It was reported earlier that they were gunning for Miami if the ACC totally implodes. That was going to be the big catch. Well, now they're gunning for FSU and Clemson. It doesn't seem likely at all. The question is, would the ACC be interested in anyone else outside of those teams? It's also been reported that North Carolina apparently is not going to be going to the Big Ten. Let me see if I can find that, because North Carolina is in an interesting spot right now. As Steve mentioned on the Big Mountain podcast, North Carolina is off the table for Big Ten expansion at this time. Reason, state politics. Yeah, but what happens to North Carolina? They go to the SEC. They stay in a watered-down ACC if Clemson and FSU leave. I mean, North Carolina is a wanted program. People have been saying North Carolina is like on the same level in terms of realignment in the basketball. Now the football is decent. They're on almost the same level as Clemson and FSU, possibly better than Clemson. So right now we'll have to see what ends up happening with that. Look at this comment. I've seen some rumors that Notre Dame could go to the Big 12 with FSU or Big 10 with A&M. I have seen the rumors on A&M going to the Big 10. I don't even know. Maybe I'll have to do some research on that. That seems like it's not going to happen. And then you also do have this. This was another thing I wanted to talk about. Boise State and UNLV, along with Air Force, floated for ACC and conference realignment. Well, I've also heard East Carolina for the ACC. That would be the ACC losing several teams. We know they've already been proactive in adding, the 3 teams with SMU, Stanford, and Cal. Boise State would be a great addition in terms of football for that conference. We also have to understand, I do think, and that's why 2 of these teams are West Coast, they need to add teams on that side of the country near both Cal and Stanford. I've said that for a while now. In their next round of realignment, if the ACC does lose teams and they become basically a de facto group of 5 conference, they're fending for their lives right now. They need to, because we know with the Pac-12, they weren't proactive. They didn't add anyone when they could have out of the Big 12, go for the kill shot against the Big 12. They didn't do it. Now they don't exist. So if you are the ACC and you do lose 2 teams, maybe 4 teams, you possibly got some good news with North Carolina not being able to go to the Big Ten. Maybe you're able to keep North Carolina, keep Duke. That's a great rivalry in terms of basketball. The football's a little lacking, but still, you would bring in a team like Boise State, great football program. Basketball's not very good, but football very important. The problem is they're in terms of realignment, where they're located, the TV market's not very good. UNLV, Las Vegas area, that would be very good in terms of the TV market. Kind of have a weird situation playing at Allegiant Stadium. And then Air Force, Air Force is a decent team. They were actually like 7-8-0 last year. I predicted it, believe it or not. But Air Force, they did get a stadium renovation, Falcon Stadium as well. So those could be potential options. I've been hearing about the ACC and Memphis. Memphis makes so much sense. To me, Memphis is a very similar program to SMU. You would be looking at, it depends how many teams the ACC actually loses. If they lose 2 teams, who do they go after? I think at least one West Coast team like a Boise State, maybe a San Diego State, and then one team, I would say, near the ACC original footprint like a Memphis. So that would be my prediction. Oh, that actually is 3 teams on the West. I'm sorry. Air Force is in Colorado Springs, that is. So that would be all 3 of those teams floated in ACC expansion, trying to expand and alleviate the travel concerns for Cal, Stanford, and SMU. Cal and Stanford are good additions, believe it or not in terms of their football. I know that's all people care about, the football success and how good the conference is going to be. That's how it's thought of. But in terms of realignment, those teams, where they're located, their academics are very, very sought after. That's why a lot of people thought Stanford was going to go to the Big Ten along with Notre Dame. The original thought was bring Stanford to the Big Ten. That would lure in Notre Dame. Now it seems like Notre Dame's probably going to be staying as an independent for sure, which at this point I think it's kind of a charade. People are just like, with Notre Dame, it is what it is. So right now I would say the analysis is all eyes seem to be on FSU. At least all the rumors are around FSU. This is really how this whole thing's kind of gone with the ACC. FSU is kind of getting all the rumors. Then there's Clemson, who also wants to leave, but they're being very quiet about it. It's going to be Clemson and FSU likely going to the same conference at the same time. But we will see if this ends up getting worked out possibly by late August. And if it does the ACC, just like last year, be extremely proactive? Well, I mean, last year they didn't lose anyone, but they know they're going to lose teams inevitably. It's just based on how bad the TV deal is. Are they proactive again towards the end of the summer, right before week 0 happens? Do they potentially try and add a Boise State? Do they go after a Memphis? Do they go after a UNLV, an East Carolina? You start talking about teams like South Florida. That's where those rumors really kick up. And Obviously, the biggest thing is, where does FSU go? Is it the SEC? Is it the Big Ten? Is the SEC trying to add teams? I know they have their media days coming up. So that could be, something. I know last year they talked and they said, no, we don't want to add anyone. We're closed for now. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.